Welcome to BioIT World's Trends from the Trenches podcast, your insider's look at the science, technology, and executive trends driving the life sciences. I'm Allison Proffitt, executive editor at BioIT World, and in our episode this month, I am excited to speak with Allissa Dillman and LaFrancis Gibson, both data scientists, experts in training and education, and leaders from the NIH Common Fund Data Ecosystem, CFDE. They are, again, facilitating the BioIT World Hackathon at the BioIT World Conference and Expo in May. So welcome to you both. Can you introduce yourselves? Give us a little bit of the breadth of the work you do, because I think it's pretty extensive.
So I'm Allissa Dillman. A little bit about me. So I'm the Training and Engagement Director for the CFDE Training Center. I also run my own company, Biodata Sage, and I mostly focus on training and engagement around bioinformatics and data science. So I run lots of hackathons and workshops, and conferences, basically all the different ways that you can kind of learn more technical skills.
Great. LaFrancis?
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon. So I am the contact PI for the CFDE Training Center. So I come with about 14 years of experience in public health. My background centers around management, working with stakeholders, community engagement, as well as training, development, and support. And we've been supporting the CFDE Training Center now for about 2 years. We're in year 2 of our project, and with 3 more years to go.
Awesome. So y'all are not new to BioIT World. You've been running this hackathon for a couple years? How many years?
Yeah, so the BioIT World Hackathon actually started back in 2017. I will say I was not at the first iteration. 2018, I was part of the sort of like foundational organizing group. At the time, I was actually so pregnant, I could not fly. I had to take a train to Boston. So I've been sort of part of the BioIT Hackathon since 2018.
Awesome. That's way more than a couple years. Sorry.
Well, we had some time off during COVID.
Right.
So it hasn't necessarily been like every year.
I want to talk about what we'll do there with the CFDE data and tools. But first, step back for me. Y'all both do a lot with training and education. What does a hackathon in general hope to accomplish? Is this an education play? Is this like a specific problem-solving play? Is this data gathering?
Yeah. So the thing I really love about hackathons is every hackathon kind of has these 3 components. A creation component, an education component, and a collaboration component. And it doesn't really matter kind of like what you're focused on per se. Like every hackathon will have all 3 of these things, right? Because you're trying to build something, whether that's a wearable or an infographic or a bioinformatics pipeline. You're going to be collaborating with people that you normally don't get to work with. And you're going to learn from each other, from the organizers, about whatever the theme is on. So the nice thing is like every hackathon does kind of have each of these components, and that's part of the reason why we're so excited about using hackathons. So one of the things we want to do is really get people to know more about all of the data and tools and resources that are part of CFDE. There's 20 odd different programs that churn out data and tools. And so there's that education component of look at all the amazing things that we've got for you to use that are open and available. And then there's the collaboration component. The really cool thing about BioIT as a conference is it really does have quite a wonderful mix of both like researchers, but also folks like in tech and IT, and also in, health IT and all sorts of like those kinds of backgrounds. So like we really get to collaborate with people who use very different tools, or at least kind of like, different like frameworks as well for how they deal with clinical data versus say, biological data. So kind of that collaboration component is there. And then also we're just really excited to see what people build with the tools and the resources and how they integrate them into, their own work and what they pull in from their own work into the hackathons. We get to kind of see them in real time use these data and resources and see how they use them.
Great. Do you track that? Do you look later at publications and say, hey, that started at one of our hackathons?
Yeah, so we do try and track those sorts of things as much as we can, and we really support trying to create publications during the hackathon. So we do have we make sure that every team sort of indicates that they're going to have a writer for the team, and that's not just for making sure that they have good documentation for whatever they build, but also kind of writing at least kind of the skeleton of a paper. So we do try and really facilitate that we're writing things that we can actually publish. If not like a research paper, then, a white paper, a blog post, or something that's sort of like, here's the things that we've learned and here's what we're doing. But we will also have post-hackathon interviews that are sort of like at later dates after the hackathon to try and see, have you been able to integrate CFD data or tools into your work? If not, why not? So we're also going to kind of check in with our participants afterwards to see how they're doing and what they're doing.
Okay, very cool. So this year's hackathon, as far as I know, though, you can correct me if it's broader than this, but there are 6 projects listed on the BioAT World site that are leveraging omics data specifically and CFDE tools. Can you tell me about those tool sets and data sets?
Sure, yeah. So we have projects, a couple of projects actually focused around MotorPack, which is actually an exercise-based data set where they have actually looked at molecular signatures across lots of different data types in rats. And then they're also currently building out that data set in humans as well. So there's just a huge wealth of information because it's multiple tissues, multiple omics data types, a bunch of clinical measures in sort of like sedentary rats and then rats who've been doing exercise. So there's a lot of really neat things to do with that data set, like just in and of itself, but it's also really cool to plug into other kinds of data sets. So for instance, data sets on disease models such as diabetes, hypertension, cancer, right? And kind of seeing where there's an overlap in these exercise models with disease models. But you can also, interlay them with things like drug, side effects, drugs repurposing, drug response and things like that and see, are there, certain drugs that could maybe mimic certain molecular signatures of exercise and stuff like that. So that's actually kind of encompassing a couple of different projects. But there's also projects that are really interested in looking at visible neural networks for cancer drug responses. And they're going to be using a couple of different data sets, everything from like protein-protein interactions to perturbation data. There's a couple of data sets that are actually focused on like drugs and drug side effects as well that will be using like Drug Central, for instance, in that work. And then also things that are more sort of on the like biology side of things where we're looking at like post-translational modifications, kind of like looking for them, where they're all at within the data sets, but then also seeing if we can map them to, like I said, some of these other data sets around disease and like molecular mechanisms. So those are kind of the overall overarching effects. A good chunk of the teams will also be playing with things like AI and ML in their models and kind of seeing what they can pull out.
So when somebody wants to be a participant in this, do they pick their favorite data type? Do they come at it from the tool angle? Like how do they align their participation?
Yeah. So, we'll need people who have both sort of, biological and clinical expertise, drug expertise, but also technical expertise, right? These are pretty complex data sets. And the metadata around them is kind of complicated too. So having folks that really have a strong technical background in just handling like computationally really complex data, and they're going to be kind of all working side by side, right? So like no one person needs to have all of those skill sets. We'll kind of make sure that each team has a good balance of both sort of the subject matter expertise and the technical expertise. So you can kind of participate from any of those angles, right? If you're more on the clinical side, there's definitely projects that have a clinical focus and would really appreciate that clinical expertise versus if you're like, I have no idea what omics data is, but I can build you some really cool things on the cloud and I know how to use AI and ML, and that's what I'm going to contribute. So like there's space for all of those different types of skills and backgrounds.
So is it all on the cloud? Is that where the compute is? I don't think that we're hosting a cluster at BioIT World this year.
Yeah, no. So we're going to have a couple of different computational tooling options. So CFDE itself has something called a Quick. So it's we have our cloud workspace. So we'll be offering, if folks want to work on the Quick, so that'll be freely available. We also have another option called Cloud Bank, which we will provide, which has like the 3 commercial cloud vendors. So Azure, AWS, and GCP will be available. So we've got like a couple of different ways that people can sort of work together in the same computational workspace. They're not required. They can work locally if they want to. But like I said, it's a little bit harder when you're kind of dealing with these large data sets. And also it's only 2 days. So we want those computations to go pretty quick. So we will have lots of different computational cloud-based tools available.
So these tools and data sets, are these things that folks can access outside of the hack, or is there some sort of proprietary access here?
No, that's a great question. So the Quick is available, so that CFDE cloud-based platform is available and open outside of the hackathon. You can actually check it out now if you want to. And then the data sets are all available. I won't say like perfectly open just because some of them are human data sets. And so they are restricted access. But you can apply for access at any time outside of the hackathon as well.
So if you wanted to follow up, if you were working on something that you thought, we want to carry on this train of thought, you could still get access to it afterward.
Correct. Yep. And we really highly encourage and offer as much support as we can if there are teams that do want to continue on with their project.
I would like to just also add on to that. When we talk about the Common Fund data ecosystem and the Common Fund data, those data sets that we're utilizing at the hackathon, we're approaching it from the FAIR principle around making sure that the data is findable, accessible, interoperable, and as well as reusable. So we want to make sure it's open access that people can use beyond the life of the hackathon.
Yeah. So actually, I had a question about FAIR. So AI is not actually particularly new, but neither is FAIR. And I was wondering, when we first started covering FAIR, gosh, like 20 years ago, maybe, are the way that we are thinking about FAIR principles changing in an age with so many AI algorithms accessible to us? Is it becoming, different in terms of what we consider findable, what we used to think of as findable, and now what we think of as findable? Or are FAIR principles a persistent underlying factor of the data that we need to keep in mind always, even as we move forward with AI algorithms?
That's a great question. And I would say it's both. On one hand, you need to sort of keep the FAIR principles at heart because, we're going to have things that require, machine readability, interoperability. And, even with AI, those data structures need to be present. But I will say, one thing that we've seen sort of a huge explosion in with AI and actually quite a few of the different programs and, platforms that are part of CFDE and now use things like AI chatbots to help you find things using like human described languages, right? Like as a biologist, I can sort of say like, hey, I'm interested in this biological question. Tell me what data sets you have. Tell me what I need to be thinking about. Help me design an experiment with that data. So these AI chatbots are sort of like helping it be more findable and reusable because you can have like that discussion, that open-ended discussion with them. But you still kind of need, the underlying like fundamental structure. So that way, like, for instance, the AI can go and like search all of the data very easily because it has all of the, linked metadata and all that.
Are you enjoying the conversation? We'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe to the podcast and give us a rating. It helps other people find and join the conversation. If you've got speaker or topic ideas, we'd love to hear those too. You can send them in a podcast review. So Allissa, when you and I had spoken earlier, you talked about some secondary questions that you wanted to explore at the hack that are maybe more fundamental about how people learn and how they collaborate beyond just these tools and these data sets. Can you tell me a little bit about those questions and how you want to approach that and what data you're hoping to gather there?
Yeah, we're actually collaborating with a research group that has been sort of exploring hackathons from a research lens for quite some time. So we were really excited to partner with them to really try to better understand how heterogeneous hackathon teams incorporate Gen AI into collaboration. So we're really interested to sort of, first of all, see how different folks with different backgrounds utilize AI. But then, like, how, like, if you've got 6 different people, for instance, and like one is a bio background, one is a technical, like maybe an IT background, one is a clinical background, and they're all using AI. Like how are they using AI? How does that look different? And then how do they come together at the end and kind of put all of those different pieces together? Do they use AI to kind of cover the parts that they are, less sure about, or do they use AI to help communicate with each other because they have different backgrounds? Like, we're really curious to kind of see like how that works and how functionally diverse individuals kind of verify, correct, and integrate AI inputs like as a team.
Interesting. Verify, correct. And what was the other one?
Integrate
the inputs. Okay. That's a fascinating question. How are you going to, how do you gather that? You're going to hover over the teams and pay attention to who's doing what?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of the reason why we are offering things like the cloud bank tools and the quick is that we will be able to see like their workspaces. We will be able to see, what kinds of conversations they're having with AI, how they're using those tools. So that's like one way we'll be able to kind of observe is, through them sharing their chat links and like I said, using these shared spaces that we'll create. But we're also going to interview folks like while they're at the hackathon. And then, like I said, we're also going to touch base with them. I can't remember if it's 3 months or 6 months after the hackathon to kind of keep having these conversations. So it'll be kind of a mix of observation, both like a technical observation of like the work, but also, observing them as they are working and then interviewing them.
That seems like such a question that we need to consider way beyond life sciences, even just how does AI change the way people work in general? And it's a really interesting application. Will you be hopefully publishing those findings? Do you expect them to impact the way groups work in general? Would you think it might change how you organize next year's hack?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And we are definitely aiming to publish our findings. And a big chunk of why we're kind of looking at this is so that next year we can be even more intentional about like what kinds of tools, how we integrate the tools, what kinds of frameworks we have, and sort of what guidance we give the teams when they work together, like in a hackathon perspective for sure. But also, because we're the training center, we really want to start integrating bits of Gen AI into our trainings as well. And so like this will kind of be our first snapshot of like in real time, how do people use things? Ooh, like that actually is a really interesting way that we keep seeing people use AI, and we really like to make that more intentional. Let's build in some of those sorts of walkthroughs in our trainings and things like that. So we're hoping to kind of utilize these observations in a couple of different ways.
So I like those ambitious goals for how both the hackathon will be run and how you will kind of assess other questions at the same time. And I love that will be that's being explored and that you'll share that with the community. Maybe, LaFrancis, tell me about the training center's goals overall. Is this kind of dual role of both sharing data and tools in the one hand and also thinking big picture about how people learn? Is that part of the training center's mission? What does that look like?
Yeah, good question. So, as far as the training center mission, so let me just kind of phrase it as this. We've positioned ourselves to serve as a hub for developing and implementing training programs that bridge knowledge gaps, as well as also improve access to CFDE resources and foster collaboration amongst CFDE users and other researchers, individuals who may not even be aware of CFDE or may be new to the space. And so in order to accomplish what we've set out to do as the training center hub, we look at opportunities such as the hackathon on how can we go into the communities and provide hands-on experiences, training, and bring in a collaborative approach because we realize learning is multifaceted. It happens when you're amongst your peers, when you're in spaces where you're learning from each other. And so that's where the education component comes, where it's not just Allissa and I showing up, teaching and training, but it's more so learning from each other. And so creating these opportunities, such as the hackathon, is one of the many ways in which the training center is really walking in this path of building training and reaching our target audiences.
Do you have a content area that you focus on? This is, an NIH effort. Is it focused on a specific content area or is it really broad?
So when we talk about, the training center is funded through the NIH Common Fund. And when I say NIH Common Fund, that pretty much consists of a diverse set of databases, data sets, tools, and resources that range from various topic areas across genomics to phenotypes and all the in between within the biomedical space.
Okay. What do you, when you are looking at registrations from BioIT or from the BioIT World Hackathon, who are you looking for? Are you looking for students? Are you looking for bench scientists? Are you looking for executives? Are you looking for everybody?
So the quick answer would be everybody, right? But no. Right. But so yeah, definitely students, data scientists, we hope to see some software developers in the mix. Anyone in the life science space, professionals, you name it.
Could these be vendors as well? Are vendors welcome to participate in this and learn from each other?
Of course.
Great. All right. So is registration still open? Let's say yes, or else this will have been a teaser with no fruit at the end of it.
Registration is still open.
Come join us.
Great.
Yes, until March 31st.
Oh, okay. So there is a deadline here that we need to be aware of. For the BioIT World community that is, BioIT World is several days past when the hackathon's over. And maybe not everybody can be part of the hackathon. Is there a message or a challenge that you would like to issue beyond the teams that are actually participating? Is there something you want, kind of a big picture challenge to go out to our community?
That's a good question. I think for me, the challenge is really to sort of look at what's already been built and, figure out how to utilize those things in new ways, right? Like, I think, especially as people, like my original background is bioinformatics, and we have a tendency to sort of be like, all right, I'm going to completely generate a new data set. I'm going to completely generate a new pipeline. I'm going to completely generate like a new thing. And then it's novel and like I get to publish it. But there's so much data out there. There's so many resources out there that we don't necessarily need to expend resources reinventing the wheel over and over again. Rather, there are ways to reuse the data in so many new, unique, and creative ways. So what we really want to know is like, what's the barriers to doing that? Like, what can we do to facilitate data reuse in new ways, creative ways, or even just for learning purposes, right? A really great way, for instance, if you're, more of on the bench biologist side of things and you're really interested in kind of beefing up your technical skills, a great way to do that is to take a data set, that has a published paper connected to it or some sort of outcomes connected to it and say, can I reproduce this? Can I, make a plot that looks similar to this, given the methods and how they're described, right? Because at least I kind of know what my output should be. So when I'm kind of playing with this data, I'm like, okay, I will expect hopefully to get at the end of this data exploration, like this plot that looks like this. So even if you're just using the data to kind of like learn technical skills, it's so many data sets and resources are available to kind of learn new technical skills. So just kind of like, making that connection with use, reuse, and just learning.
And I will add, with that, when we talk about all these large data sets, data is only impactful if the people can use it, right?
Mhm.
And so this is where we hope to bridge that gap at the hackathon and allowing people to really immerse themselves in this space for 2 days and work across the different data sets and tools and across each other.
Yeah, and you said that there are human data sets that have some restrictions on use, but there are other data sets that don't. So this could be really open to somebody who is new to the space or just wants to play around with some tools. There are data sets that are more accessible really broadly, correct?
Yeah, so I'll highlight the MotorPack data set again, just because it is, because it's frat data, so it is completely open. Everything from the raw data all the way through to the the analysis outputs and the summary level data, all of the code used to generate those outputs, all of it is free, openly available, from raw data to analysis.
So you have both been doing this for a while. Do you ever get bored, or do you feel like, oh gosh, these folks are coming up with the same ideas every time?
So I honestly have kind of lost track of how many hackathons I run. This may be around my 70th at this point.
Wow.
And no, and part of it is, yes, there definitely, especially with some themes in hackathons, there does tend to be certain ideas that kind of come up over and over again, but it never gets boring because it's different people and they approach it with very different ideas and tools and just novel ways of looking at things, right? So if you have a team that's all going to explore like how do you use machine learning with, say, the MotorPack data set, right? Like that's kind of a very broad question, first of all.
Yeah.
And ask that question in a bunch of different ways. And depending on, the team that ends up forming, you could kind of end up focusing a lot more on like the clinical side of things, or a lot more on sort of like the basic biology side of things, or a lot more on, sort of like the technical side of things. Like, I just want to build a really cool pipeline. So like the sort of how people solve it is always different. And that's what I really love about hackathons. And in my humble opinion, is sort of the power of a hackathon. Like, I feel like I could give the same question to 5 groups of people and they will all find their own unique and creative way of approaching that problem.
That's awesome.
I do just want to add, not only should you join us for this hackathon because you'll learn lots of cool things and meet lots of cool people and play with lots of cool data and resources and tools. Also, there is monetary prizes attached to it.
There's real money here.
Yes, there's real money here. There's multiple prizes up to $5,000. So come and play with us and our data for 2 days, and you will potentially walk away with some real hard cash.
So how do you, what's the assessment that decides who gets the cash?
So we will have sort of multiple things that we're looking for, everything from sort of novelty to how well can we actually follow your code on GitHub, to the presentation, because there's a final presentation as well. So there'll be a couple of different aspects that will be kind of like assessing.
Great.
And I don't know if we mentioned this, but it is free. You do not have to register for the main conference to participate in the hackathon.
Yep.
So we just come spend 2 days with us, and we may even provide you lunch.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you both so much. I enjoy talking to you. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in Boston, and seeing what comes out of these 2 days.
Thank you so much for having us. And I always love talking about hackathons, so this was my favorite.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Great. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening to BioIT World's Trends from the Trenches podcast. We hope to see you again soon.